I spoke to you. Even when the noise surrounded you, I spoke to you. When your mind was racing through 1,000 worries, and your heart trembled quietly in the dark, I spoke not with shouts, but with my still small voice. You didn't lose me because I left. You lost me because the world screamed louder than my whisper. Yet still, I spoke. I called your name among crowds that never knew you. I whispered to your soul when even you had forgotten it. I stood at the door of your restlessness, not demanding entry, but waiting with love. Because my love does not force its way in, it offers, it waits, it breathes. I spoke to you when you cried without knowing why. When your tears didn't match your surroundings, when your smile masked the ache you didn't want to admit. I spoke when your thoughts grew louder than your faith, and even when the noise of fear felt more real than my promise. I did not stop speaking, but you did not hear me, and I do not blame you. The world trains your ears for everything except the eternal. You've been taught to listen to opinions, expectations, fear, shame, success, escape, but no one taught you how to be still. No one showed you how to silence the storm within and listen for the one who never stopped speaking. Still, I was there. I didn't leave when you turned your attention away. I didn't abandon you when you chose other voices, but I felt the distance growing, and even though my love remains, my voice became more subtle, not because I loved you less, but because I do not compete with chaos. I am the God of order, not of confusion. I am peace, not volume. I spoke as you ran, as you chased comfort, applause, companionship, distraction, as you tried to fill what only I could heal. And yes, I know you thought I was silent, but it wasn't silence. It was your soul, surrounded by too much sound, unable to hear me through the clutter. Noise isn't always sound. Sometimes it's the doubt that never quiets, the anger that lingers beneath your smile, the pride that keeps you from surrendering, the shame that screams louder than my mercy, the echoes of rejection you never released, the voices that told you who you weren't, and you believed them, the need to appear strong while breaking inside, the mask of control hiding your desperation, and in all that noise, I still spoke. Do you remember that unexplainable heaviness that came out of nowhere? That moment when everything around you seemed fine, but something inside you ached? That silent tear that you wiped away quickly? That gentle pull to forgive, to slow down, to come back? That dream that woke you up with your heart racing? That moment of stillness when everything seemed to pause? That was me. I didn't shout. I didn't demand. I didn't force. I whispered. Because I wanted you to choose me, not out of fear, but out of love. The world shouts to impress. I whisper to transform. The world fights for your attention. I wait for your affection, because what I desire is not performance, it's presence. I spoke when no one understood your silence. I spoke when your prayers stopped sounding like prayers, when your worship faded into routines, when your strength wore out and your soul longed to breathe again. I spoke, not to remind you of your failures, but to remind you of your belonging. Still belong to me, even when the world numbed your hearing, even when your own voice told you I had given up on you. I hadn't, and now, here you are, reading these words, hearing again what your heart once forgot, feeling the weight of a love that never stopped chasing. Because even if your soul drowned in noise, my voice remains. You may ask me, why didn't you speak louder? And I will tell you, because I do not want fear to train your ears. I want love to awaken your hearing. I want you to know the difference between what demands you and who invites you, between what drains you and who restores you, between what impresses you for a moment and who transforms you forever. I am not interested in being heard as just another sound. I am the stillness after the storm, the quiet that settles the soul, the voice that brings things back to life. I have always been here. I never changed. I never abandoned you. My voice didn't age. My love didn't fade. My promises didn't expire. You are still mine. And yes, you can still return to the quiet. You can still recognize my voice again. You can still hear what has always been speaking, but for that to happen, you must choose silence over noise, stillness over speed, surrender over survival. You must close your eyes, not in fear but in trust. I spoke to you amid the noise, and I am speaking to you now, not because you earned it, but because I love you, because I never gave up on you, because I never needed the perfect moment to love you. I just needed a listening heart. Will you listen now? Will you turn down the volume of what distracts, so you can hear the voice that heals? I am not far. I am never far. I'm not the echo of religion. I'm the voice of a father who never stopped calling, and if you allow me, I will make the noise fade and teach your soul to sing again. But for that, you must stop running from the silence and begin walking toward me. I never stopped speaking, but you were not taught to seek me in the stillness. You were told to run after solutions, to chase comfort, to fill the ache with anything that made the pain feel smaller. But the ache was never your enemy. It was the signal that you needed me. It was your soul crying out, saying, "There is more, and I miss it." You feared silence because you feared what it would reveal. But I am not the voice of condemnation. I am the voice that rebuilds. I am the voice that speaks not to crush, but to lift you from the ruins of your own noise. You say you seek peace, but peace is not found in more noise wrapped in prettier tones. Peace is not a formula. Peace is a person. It is found in me. I am not hiding. I am not distant. I am not avoiding you. I am here, but you must be willing to come where I dwell. And I do not dwell in noise. One dwell in the sacred quiet of surrendered hearts. One dwell in reverence. I dwell where I am truly sought, not just as a fix, but as a father, not just as a healer, but as Lord. Do you want to hear me? Then lay down your pride. Lay down the need to have all the answers. Lay down the voices you run to before me, the ones that tell you what you want to hear, but not what you need to hear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, not fear as the world teaches it, but reverent awe. The kind that bows not out of terror, but because it finally sees how holy I truly am. The kind that doesn't reduce me to a Sunday experience or a desperate prayer in hard times. The kind that says, "God, you are worthy of being the first voice I hear every day, and the last voice I rest in every night." Do you want understanding? Then seek me like treasure. Because I am not shallow, and my truth is not meant to decorate your thoughts. It is meant to transform your life. It is meant to reorder your affections, reshape your desires, and awaken your soul. I did not save you so you could remain numb. I called you so you could live fully, truly, deeply. But that kind of life cannot grow in a soul addicted to noise. You must come back to the garden, to the quiet place, to the holy ground of encounter. Yes, you will feel exposed there. You will see things in yourself you avoided for years, but you will also see me as I am, not through the distorted voices of the world, but face to face. You will hear my voice clearly, and it will not shame you. It will sanctify you. It will not bruise you. It will awaken you. It will not accuse. It will invite you to walk again, to trust again, to breathe again. My voice is not entertainment. It is not noise to fill your moments of boredom. It is the lifeline to your soul. It is the sound that holds galaxies in order, and still knows how to call you by name. You ask me, why don't I hear you like before? But I ask you, why did you stop expecting me to speak? Why did you replace my word with the world's suggestions? Why did you choose what flatters your ego instead of what convicts your heart? I am not a background sound. I am the origin of sound, the voice that made silence sacred, the one who breathed the stars into place and who still whispers into your spirit. I'm here. I'm not done with you, but you must return. Return to the secret place. Return to prayer that's more than requests. Return to worship that costs something. Return to hunger, the holy kind that says, "God, I can't live on noise. I need your presence, my child." You were not made for this cluttered pace. You were not designed to live drowning in constant stimulation. Your soul was designed for communion, for connection with me. And when you begin to shut down the other voices, you'll hear the one that never changed. The one that still speaks peace over storms, and identity over shame, and purpose over confusion. You'll hear me again, not because I returned, but because you came home. And when you do, you'll cry, not from sorrow, but from recognition. Because my voice will feel like home. Because you'll remember this is where you always belonged. So search for me, but not casually. Search for me like someone desperate for air, like someone who finally realized that all the noise was never life, it was just distraction. Search for me with reverence, with humility, with hunger, and I promise you this, you will find me. And when you do, you won't just hear my voice, you'll begin to speak. Again too, from a place of healing, from a place of truth, from a place that no longer echoes the world, but reflects heaven. And when you finally heard me, not through the noise, not through borrowed faith, not through desperation alone, but truly heard me, your soul remembered who it was. It was not instant, it was not loud, but it was real. My voice did what the world never could. It softened the hardness, it quieted the restlessness, it unveiled the forgotten, and the moment you recognized it, you realized, I had never stopped speaking. You had simply stopped being still long enough to listen. And in that stillness, you didn't just hear me, you began to heal, because my voice does not return void. It doesn't echo into emptiness. It enters deep, splitting soul from spirit, revealing what must die so what is divine can be born. You began to weep not from fear, but from release. from the lifting of years of pressure, of shame, of performance. The masks fell, the striving ceased, and my presence filled the places you had once sealed shut. That you began to feel me again, not as an idea, but as your refuge, not as a theology, but as your oxygen. That and when I spoke again, your spirit didn't resist, it bowed, not because I demanded, but because you understood. You understood that reverence isn't fear that hides, it's love that kneels. You understood that obedience isn't oppression, it's alignment. You understood that my will is not restriction, it's redemption. And with each word I spoke, you saw more clearly, not the world, not others, but me. And in seeing me, you saw yourself, not the self the world told you to be, not the identity shaped by wounds or opinions, or failures, but the self I designed before time, the self I breathed into existence when I said, "Let there be life." The noise that once ruled you began to lose its power, not because it disappeared, but because it was no longer your guide. My voice had taken its rightful place. You no longer chased empty affirmations. You no longer feared silence, because silence became sacred again. It became the ground where I met you. It became the temple of our communion. And your prayers changed. No longer rushed, no longer rehearsed, no longer filled with fear or bargains, but honest, soft, yielded. And your worship changed. No longer performance, no longer repetition, but tears that became incense. Hands lifted not to impress, but to surrender. Songs that didn't just fill a room, but pierced heaven. Your heart began to beat differently, not with anxiety, but with awareness, not with panic, but with peace. You began to recognize my whispers even in chaos. You began to find me even when the world grew darker, because my voice was no longer a stranger, it was your anchor. You no longer lived for the approval of the crowd. You lived for the sound of my steps. You no longer craved recognition, you craved revelation. You no longer asked, "What do they think of me?" but rather, "God, am I walking with you?" And even when I corrected you, you didn't hide. You leaned in, because my discipline no longer felt like punishment, it felt like precision. You realized that the same voice that formed galaxies was also forming you, and you began to hunger, not just for peace, but for purity, not just for blessings, but for nearness. You searched my word not to be smarter, but to be surrendered. You opened scripture, and it opened you. Every verse became breath, every truth became fire, every promise became invitation, every warning became mercy. You were no longer impressed by platforms, but by presence. You no longer measured your faith by emotions, but by endurance. You no longer settled for borrowed revelation, you wanted to hear me yourself. And I spoke not because you performed, but because you were ready. Not because you perfected your walk, but because you finally placed your feet on holy ground. You began to discern, you noticed what once went unnoticed. You caught the subtle lies wrapped in truth. You heard the difference between noise and anointing. You recognized counterfeits. Because you had tasted the real, you walked with me not just in church, but in the quiet of your room, in the pain of your disappointment, in the beauty of the ordinary. Your soul, once shattered, began to reflect me again because my voice had become your mirror. And in my voice, you didn't just hear instructions, you heard identity. You heard, "You are forgiven, you are chosen, you are mine. You are not what broke you, you are what I'm restoring. You are not forgotten, you are called." And those words did not pass through you, they planted inside you, they grew, they bore fruit. They rewrote the parts of you that noise had distorted. You no longer feared the silence, you craved it, because in the silence you found me, and in me you found yourself. So keep listening, keep walking, keep seeking. Let every distraction fall, let every idol crumble, let every substitute lose its grip. Let your soul return, again and again, to the only voice that ever truly knew you. I'm still speaking, not from afar, but from within, not with pressure, but with presence, not with condemnation, but with covenant. You have learned to hear me, now learn to follow me, and I will lead you where noise cannot enter, into the fullness of life, into the glory of knowing me, not just as a voice, but as everything. Now that you hear me, you no longer walk as you once did. The world hasn't changed, but you have, because now, you walk with clarity. Now you listen not only with your ears, but with your spirit. You rise in the morning, and your first thought is not anxiety, it is surrender. You don't ask, "What do I have to do today?" You ask, "God, where are you leading me?" You speak slower, you love deeper, you move quieter, not because you've become timid, but because you've become aware of my nearness, aware of what my voice cost, aware of how many times I called, and how precious it is to hear me now. You walk among the noise, but it no longer rules you. You hear it, Yes, but you do not follow it, because my voice has become your compass, your guardrail, your breath, your rhythm. And where once you stumbled in confusion, you now walk in direction, not perfection direction, not because you always know the next step, but because you know the one who does. You no longer live to be seen, you live to see what I see, to feel what I feel, to speak what I speak, to walk where I walk, because when my voice became your home, you no longer needed the approval of the crowd, you only needed my delight. You feel my promptings now, you sense my warnings, my gentle redirections, my still instructions, and you obey not from fear of punishment, but from the sweetness of trust. Obedience has become your joy, because it is no longer a rule, it is a response to love, to light, to presence. You have learned to recognize me in the quiet, and now you also recognize me in the midst of movement, in conversations, in moments of discomfort, in invitations to serve, in still glances, in sudden boldness, in moments that feel like fire, and others that feel like peace. And I am in them all, not in ways that overwhelm, but in ways that transform. Because your ears have been tuned not just to what I say, but to who I am. Don't you no longer separate your life into compartments, sacred and secular, spiritual and practical, because now you know when I am your voice, all things become holy. Prepare your heart before you speak. You guard your mind when it wanders. You pause before decisions, not from hesitation, but from discernment, because now you know that even in small things, my voice can be found, and you have learned not to move ahead of me, nor lag behind me, but to walk with me. You see with clearer eyes, you discern with greater weight, not because of pride, but because of my wisdom resting in you. Because what you once feared, you now pursue. What once made you hide, you now confront in my authority. You don't run from trials, you walk through them with me. You don't fear silence, you enter it to be refreshed. You don't panic when the way is unclear, you wait, because you trust my voice to come. You pray differently, no longer just with words, but with posture, no longer just to speak, but to hear, and what you hear you obey. You see people through me now. You no longer respond to offense with offense, but with wisdom. You no longer fight battles with noise, but with prayer, with presence, with peace. You are no longer reactive, you are rooted, because my voice grounded you, not in convenience, but in conviction, not in comfort, but in calling. You live from overflow now, from intimacy, from the secret place, and that place is no longer unfamiliar. It's home. You no longer ask, is God near? You feel me in every breath surrendered, in every choice guided, in every sacrifice offered, in every moment that is no longer yours, but mine. And the more you live this way, the more you begin to see, the noise hasn't gone, but it's lost its influence, because my whisper has become louder than their shouts. You have become a carrier of my voice, not to echo it, but to live it, to reflect it in places too loud to hear, but soft enough to feel. You're no longer just listening, you're living. You're no longer just receiving, you're revealing. You have stepped into the deeper, the place beyond performance, beyond striving, beyond doubt, the place where your life is no longer yours but poured out in response to the voice that saved you. You now walk in purpose, not borrowed, but born. You now carry peace, not temporary, but divine. You now live with vision, not driven by ambition, but by communion. That this is not the end. This is the unfolding, the continuation of a life guided not by noise, but by me, and I will keep speaking. Every morning, every night, in fire and in stillness, in waiting and in going, in rejoicing and in suffering, I will speak, because my covenant with you is not built on your perfection, but on my presence. So walk forward, with eyes fixed, heart open, and ears tuned, because what I will speak next will require even more surrender, even more intimacy, even more fire. And you are ready to hear it. Now that you hear me, your eyes have begun to see me, not in the way the world sees, but in the way the spirit discerns in dreams, in visions, in silence that opens eternity within you. You no longer just follow instructions, you respond to presence. You don't just obey what I say, you are drawn into who I am, and the closer you come, the more the heavens begin to open. You feel it now, the veil is thinner. What once felt far is now near. What once felt unreachable is now within, because I have brought you beyond noise, beyond routine, beyond mere belief. You have stepped into revelation, and with revelation comes responsibility. I have shown you glimpses, flashes of what's to come, stirrings in the night, dreams that are not random but prophetic, not emotional but eternal. You've begun to see people differently, Not just through emotion, but with holy compassion. You've begun to sense what burdens others carry, even when they smile. You've begun to speak words you didn't plan, words that pierced hearts because they were mine. That is not your imagination. It is confirmation. I am awakening the gifts I placed in you before you were ever wounded, before the noise dulled your spirit, before the world tried to tame what I designed to burn. You are not meant to just listen to my voice. You are meant to carry it, to speak it, to walk in it, to release it into the places where chaos still reigns. Because now you know how to hear me, you can now help others hear me too. I am making you into a voice in the wilderness. Not loud by volume, but loud by weight. A voice that carries heaven, a voice that breaks chains, a voice that silences lies. Not because of who you are, but because of who I am in you. I have trusted you with stillness, and now I will trust you with fire. But not the fire of ambition, the fire of purity, of intercession, of holy authority. You have walked through the refining, you have endured the breaking, you have sat in silence long enough to know that power without intimacy is empty. And now that your roots are deep, you will rise with discernment that cannot be bought, with eyes that see beyond the surface, with a voice that speaks what I whisper, not what is popular, but what is holy. Do not fear the weight of what I place upon you, because I do not send without first forming, I do not release without first refining, and I have formed you in secret, so that you can stand in the open. There will be days when others won't understand, when what I show you will feel too large for your shoulders, but I am not asking you to carry it alone. I am asking you to partner with me, and when you speak what I speak, I will confirm it, with peace that floods the soul, with conviction that transforms hearts, with miracles that do not glorify you, but glorify me. I will pour out vision, not just sight vision, the ability to see where others see confusion, the grace to declare my plans where others only see ruin. I will give you dreams, not all at once, but enough to show you you're walking with me, dreams that pull you into my heart, dreams that reveal assignments, dreams that wake you in the night with urgency, with intercession, with power, and I will confirm them, in scripture, in alignment, in quiet, in peace that defies reason, in doors that no man can shut. That you are not meant to go back to the noise, you are not meant to explain away the sacred, you are meant to live prophetic, to walk with your head lifted, your hands open, your soul set apart. I am training you to speak with weight, to pray with fire, to walk with conviction, to love without compromise. The world will try to pull you back into noise, into performance, into fear, but you have tasted too much of me to return. You have heard too much of me to pretend. You have seen too much of me to settle. So let me keep stretching you. Let me keep increasing you. Let me take you deeper than your comfort, and higher than your plans, because you were made for more than silence beneath noise. You were made for the sound of glory. I am calling you to become not just a listener of my voice, but an echo of heaven, a reflection of my nature, a carrier of my presence, an extension of my mercy, a vessel of my truth. You are being prepared, not just for moments, but for movements, not just for encounters, but for assignments. So stay close, stay listening, stay yielded, because what I will speak next is not just for you, it is through you. And the world is waiting, not for more noise, but for my voice through the willing. And you are ready. You've come so far, from chaos to clarity, from survival to surrender, from noise to stillness, and now, I bring you deeper. There is something I want to show you, not with your physical eyes, but through the eyes of your spirit. Close them now, just for a moment. Let every other voice fall away. Let me take you beyond time, beyond thought, beyond noise. Let me show you what has always been. You find yourself standing in stillness. It's not dark, but there is no sun, only light, radiating from everywhere, and yet from nowhere. It is not harsh, it is holy. Before you, a vast space, not empty, but sacred, not silent, but full of presence. That there is no fear here, no tension, only peace that wraps you like breath. You look down and your feet stand on gold, yet it feels like air, like you are being held. Even while you stand, you lift your head and there he is. Not in image, but in essence. That the one who spoke to you in whispers, the one who called you in the dark, the one who never gave up on your hearing. Now, face to face, and you don't speak because you don't have to. Your soul does, without words, without effort. You are fully known. Every wound is visible to him, and yet none of them are judged, only healed, only held. And he looks at you not with fire, but with eternity, not with accusation, but with affection. And then you speak, but not from your mouth, from your spirit. I remember now, and he smiles. You remember the moments when you thought he was gone, but he was there when you cried alone. but heaven was leaning in, when you almost gave up. But he whispered, "Not yet." You remember that the whisper was never weak, it was wise. That he didn't speak louder because he was never far, he was always near. You begin to weep, but the tears feel like worship, like release, like remembering your origin. Because now, in this sacred communion, you know you were made to hear him, you were made for him, not just in life, but in forever. And in this moment, he steps closer. There is no distance between you. There is no fear left in you. There is no doubt clouding you. Just God, just love, just home. And then he speaks, not with thunder, but with the same still voice that carried you out of the noise. You are mine, you always were, and now, you know it. He places his hand, not on your shoulder, but on your spirit, and fire flows through you, not to burn you, but to awaken you. You see your life again, but this time, through his eyes. You see the battles, the weeping, the waiting, the breaking, and all of it wrapped in grace. You see your journey, every step marked by mercy, every silence filled with intention, every detour woven with purpose. And he says, "You have heard me, now walk with me. You have seen me, now reflect me. You have been restored, now release, restoration." Then the vision begins to fade, not because he leaves, but because he goes with you. Because heaven is not far anymore. It has come near, it lives in you now. And the voice you once lost in the noise has become the sound that defines your eternity. You open your eyes and everything is different. The world is still loud, but your spirit is still louder, because now you live not by noise, but by the whisper that became your foundation. You walk, you speak, you breathe, you listen, as one who has seen, as one who has heard. As one who belongs.